Hi, I'm Ed again, and this is December the 4th, 2019. And what I want to talk about today, I want to do a little rundown on the problem with religion. I'm stealing a little bit of the idea from the famous comedian, Australian comedian, I think he lives in the United States now, maybe, Jim Jeffries. And in some of his comedy, he points out that that religion is the problem. And he talks about what different religions do. Well, I'm not making a big noise today about the idea that the problems that religion cause, but I'm more making my go-to thing is the idea that how ridiculous all of them are. So, for example, what I'm going to do is try to thumbnail a couple of the religions. The ones, of course, in North America, versions of the Christian religion are the most common thing. But I don't want to avoid taking a shot at Islam. So we go, okay, let's look at the story of Islam. Here's a little thumbnail on how the Quran came to be. The Prophet Muhammad said goodbye to his 6-year-old bride, blushing bride. Imagine that, a 6-year-old. That's what the story says. Hopped on his horse, Barak, I think is the horse's name, rode up to heaven and met Allah. Got the whole... Muhammad was... he couldn't read or write, but the story goes he memorized, God or an angel dictated to him the whole Quran, and he memorized the whole Quran, whatever is 500,000 words. Okay. Now the Christian religion. Okay. In the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth, and he made a man out of a handful of dirt, and then he pulled a bone out of the guy's ribs and made a woman. And the woman went and talked to a snake about this fruit that God had told her not to eat. And the snake told her it was okay, and so she ate the fruit. And never mind how dumb it is and everything. And Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty. No, that's not a religion. Okay, what about the Mormon religion? Joseph Smith found some golden tablets on a hillside in New York State and translated it from a defunct religion that nobody in the world knows, except somehow he was able to translate it and tells the whole story of Mormon. What about the Hindus? They got a whole bunch of gods. They got a dozen or so of the main gods, and then lots of others. Well, they've all got angels and demons and stuff like that. Okay, what other one do we have? Are those oh yeah, within the Christian religion, let's take a look at the Catholic religion, Roman Catholic religion. Now, one of their myths that Catholics are told they have to believe, and some say they do believe it, is the transubstantiation of a cracker or a bunch of crackers, into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. Now this priest stands up at the front of the church and does this magic thing with these crackers, Dominus Vobiscum and whatever, and they immediately actually turn into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. That's part of their story. Now my whole point is, just listen to, I didn't do any real exaggerating. I may not have told the stories exactly, but that's the way it goes. But as far as I can see, all of those are obviously fairy tales. I mean, how are any of those different than, talking about Santa Claus living in the North Pole and making toys for kids and delivering them around the world and in his sleigh with the reindeers that can fly? It's all the same stuff. And all of those on the surface may be relatively harmless. I mean, if you happen to believe in Santa Claus, or that there's this guy in the sky, whether you call him Allah or Jehovah or Yahweh or Jesus or whatever, it's imaginary sort of thing. And again, I say on the surface, there's no problem with that. The problem lies with the persons come to believe that thing, and then they end up accepting, like in the Christian religion, one of my problems that I find humongous is it's misogynist. It puts women in secondary categories, or a secondary place to men in the world. It says with homosexuality is a huge sin, and it says what we should do with homosexuals is kill them all. That kind of thinking is crazy. I've read a little bit of the Quran and the thing about the hijab, the war against non-believers, and it gives descriptions of how, not only that you should kill them, but how you should kill them. Not only kill them, but torture them, cut arm off on one side, the leg off on the other side. It's horrible. But my main point is not the idea that religion is a problem, is that religions generally are bloody ridiculous. Just the basic idea. And if you buy into that, then they've got a bridge to sell you. Then you're forced to go with the whole thing. So again, I mean, like for example, I hope today or tomorrow I'm going to talk with my friend David, who's a Jehovah's Witness. One of the things I have started in a conversation with him, besides, I mean, he wants to tell me Bible stories. So does my other friend, who is a born-again preacher. He wants to tell me Bible stories. The problem is that if this deity is a fairy, an imaginary thing, it doesn't exist, the rest of it is all absolute nonsense. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, if this thing does not exist, then it can't do anything. It can't be guiding you in your life, and there's not going to be any the end of the world thing or anything. But the problem is, what the way I see it is, the Jehovah's Witness, the born-again Christians, when they have their meetings and so on, there's no discussion about what evidence do we have that this is actually real? There actually is this guy called Jehovah or Yahweh or Jesus or Allah or Hanuman, the monkey god, whatever. There's no discussion about why we should believe any of those things are real. They just go on telling the story about how these deities, these magic guys, are, you know, you have to pray to them, you have to worship them, you do all that stuff, and they're helping you day by day in your daily life. I'm starting the conversation with David, the Jehovah's Witness now, and I'm holding his feet to the fire a little bit on the idea of, let's talk about, does this thing, or whatever you want to call it, Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus, does it actually exist? And as far as I can see, it's most atheists don't come out and say God, none of the gods do exist, but we say, I would like to say, they are no more probable than our what other Santa Claus or unicorns or fairies or those things. They have the same probability. There's just this whole story built up around them. Okay, so that's all we're doing for today. Once again, I'll remind you that I'm Ed. This channel is called Atheist A Birt with No Cage. And today is December the 4th, 2019. I tend to say 19 something because after all, I spent 60 years of my 79 years in the 20th century, the 1900s. I was born in 1940, so for 60 years, every year was 19 something. So I'm still not used to the idea of calling it 20 something. And when I talk to young millennials, it's often funny because some of them were born in this millennium and they only know 20 something or other. The idea of saying I was born in 1940 is an historic event at best. Anyway, that's so I don't get babbling anymore. That's all we're going to do for today. Thanks a lot. My name's Ed. See you in the next one. Bye.